Afternoon, guys. Well, I'm indoors. That makes a change. I'm here to fulfill a request, shall we say. On a recent video, I had in the comments a comment from the Wild Campers UK YouTube channel. And he said he wanted to know whether I was going to do a sort of a knife review. I said, well, no, review is probably the wrong term. Just go over what I use, much like I've been doing the series of videos about the wild camping on a budget and what rucksacks I use, what sleeping bags I use, etc, etc. They voiced an interest in knives. Now, I've got quite a few. I think anybody that's been doing this for any length of time will be much the same. We tend to sort of gather them up over the years as we're going along. And some of mine date back a long time. I've got one that's probably had about 30 years, thereabouts. That's probably the oldest. But yeah, got a few. But just narrowing it down to the stuff that I would use currently almost every time that I go out. Breaking it down into sort of categories really. Little things. The Opinel number 8. Cracking little knife. Small, cheap, lightweight. It is locking, so that could cause you an issue, but it doesn't look offensive. You know, it's not a big zombie knife. For small tasks round camp, whether it be cutting string, preparing food, or even eating food, if I've got myself a steak or a chop or something like that I need a knife for, I use that. They're great little knives. The other thing that I use this for almost every time is it's got a very sharp 90-degree spine, and it works brilliantly with a fire steel. It's only a thin blade, so I don't tend to have it open. I have it closed like this in the lock position and just strike the fire steel in that fashion. Brilliant at throwing sparks. Works really, really well. So yeah, for small tasks, or just if I want a pocket knife, if I'm just out for a walk, probably that one. For an all-rounder, I've just pulled out this one as an example. I've got a few, shall we say, that fall in this category. I suppose you'd call this a standard bushcraft knife. Most of them fall roughly within the same parameters. 4.5 inch, 5 inch blade, something in that sort of area. Reasonably thick on the spine. I think this one's a shade under 3mm, might even be 3mm. So it's pretty strong. Full tang. But of course, being fixed blade, again, there is certain legal issues. It's not something that you can walk around town with it strapped on your belt. I tend to keep them in the bottom of my rucksack until I'm actually on site. And even then, I tend not to actually use the belt loop. I tend to pull it out of my pack, do whatever the job is, and put it away again. It's just keeping it simple in case someone does approach you. If they don't see it, they don't worry about it. And you don't really need it strapped to your belt all the time, unless you're doing an awful lot of knife type work. Shelter build or something like that maybe. But yeah, just a personal opinion. I leave it like this, in the bag. This sort of size is probably the most useful, because it will do the small tasks. It will do food prep and that sort of work. But it is large enough that I can use it for battening, splitting down larger pieces of wood into kindling size for lighting a fire. So it's probably the universal one, shall we say, which is why it's probably such a popular size. So that's that. The most popular out there, of course, is anything from the Mora stable. And strangely, Mora is one of the knives I haven't got, never owned, but I probably will at some point. But they're all very much that sort of size, thickness, weight, and probably price. So yeah, that's the do-it-all size. Then of course we have big things. This is a replica of the British Army knife, commonly known as the Pig. And a lot of people will slate these and say, oh, it's not the original. I don't care. This is cheaper. The handle is better. Why not? It's just as strong. It's almost as thick. You can give this any sort of abuse you like. Don't know quite whether I can get the angle right there, but it's a real thick beast of a thing. 500 grams, about a pound in weight. You can split big lumps of wood with this. You can use it as a chopper, you know, for shelter building, that sort of type work. Very, very good tool. Tough as old boots. As I say, not expensive. Because it's not expensive, I don't mind how I use it. I've even dug fire pits with this when I haven't had a shovel or whatever with me. It just puts up with it. Not the original sheath, one I had for another knife, but I decided to team them two up. The downside of that is, because it's a big beast, you can't really do food prep or eat your dinner with it. It's a bit over the top for that. And it's heavy. Again, it's another one that I would never have on my belt, because my trousers will end up around my ankles with the weight of it. Again, lives in the bag, comes out, gets used, gets put away. If I'm taking this out, I team it up with this. Then I've got all the bases covered. This will do most things, but it's not as good as this at small stuff, and it's not as good as this at big stuff. So if size, pack weight, that sort of thing is an issue, it's something like that, a Mora type size, weight. If I could take them, I'll take this pair, because it's a great combination together. Most people in a bushcrafty sort of background have something like this. I've had this quite a while, and I think I've used it twice, maybe. If you are making a shelter or doing an awful lot of chopping and building stuff, it's a great tool to have. But it's just a big, heavy lump of dead weight that I'll use once in a blue moon. And most of the jobs this can do. This is a bit of a sort of one-trick pony to a certain extent. Yes, you can do other things, and if it's sharp enough you could feather stick with it and things like that. But let's face it, who really does that when you've got a decent knife to hand as well? This has more uses. For splitting wood and cutting stuff down, this will take a little bit more effort to use than this, but this is twice the weight. Whatever the sort of use or job you've got to hand, you need to make a choice. But I hardly ever use this, to be honest. So, that's basically what I use. Big jobs, but whenever this comes out, something like this comes too, then I've got all the bases covered. If I'm taking just one, it's something like this, you know, standard bushcraft knife, Mora sized, will do most jobs. I hope that answers your question. Also, if anyone else out there has got a question they want to put to me, I'll do my best to answer it. Let's face it, while we're on lockdown, there's not a lot else we can get on with. This has almost become my full-time job at the moment. Anything to stop me from going nuts. So, there we go. London. Thinking of another group. Excuse me. The Wild Campers UK. That was the answer, hopefully, to your question, request. People, pop over, have a look at their YouTube. The Wild Campers UK. Might be worth having a look. Hey, we all need something to watch at the moment. I'll catch you all soon, guys. Take care.